Serie A has a new champion. After watching Juventus lift the Scudetto for every year since 2012, Inter Milan have broken the old ladies' dominance and taken home their 19th Italian title. But how have Antonio Conte's men pulled off this remarkable feat? When Antonio Conte was appointed Inter Milan manager in 2019, he was tasked with knocking Juventus off of their perch, a perch which he helped them stand on by winning the first 3 of their 9 consecutive Scudetto titles. Of course, it wasn't going to be an easy task. This was like knocking PSG or Bayern Munich off the top of their respective leagues. Regardless of the manager, whether it was Conte, Allegri or Sarri, Juventus' domination of Italian football in the last decade has been a mixture of possessing high-quality players, a bigger budget than the rest of the league, a deeper squad led by a top-class manager, and alongside of it all, the downfall of their traditional rivals. Let's take a look at some of their rivals. AC Milan have been in absolute turmoil for the last 7 years. Multiple owners, multiple changes of sporting directors, up to 9 managers including interims, and a lot of financial worries off the pitch. In fact, they haven't finished in the Champions League spaces until what looks like this season. Elsewhere, the likes of Roma, Lazio, Atalanta have all had brief spells of looking like they may be able to pull off the unthinkable, but every time they get close, they just can't get across the line. Of course, one of their main threats in the last few years has also been Napoli, but it seems as though whenever they have something good, like a good goal scorer in Gonzalo Higuain or a good manager, Maurizio Sarri, they either leave or they end up at Juventus, one of the two. As for Inter Milan, they kind of had the same problems as AC Milan in the last decade. There was quite a few changes in ownership and they were facing this lull after coming off such a high of the Jose Mourinho winning treble side all those years ago, and it seems like it was in the distant past. In 2015, after trying to financially sustain themselves, they broke financial fair play regulations and were actually punished in the 2016 season as well. This was a time where Roberto Mancini left before the season even kicked off. He was replaced by Frank de Boer, who had an equally shocking time of it, and he was then replaced by Stefano Pioli, who actually managed to leave the club before the end of the season, when it became clear that yet again, for the 6th season in a row, they would not be finishing in the top 3. After Luciano Spalletti was brought in, things did take a little bit of a better turn on the pitch, but not everything was absolutely fine behind the scenes. There was that whole hoo-ha with Mauro Icardi and his wife calling out a load of players, a disagreement between him and the fans. He was club captain, he got stripped of the captaincy, he wanted to leave, he only got loaned out. There was a whole big mess, and Inter Milan just could not have it right on and off the pitch at the same time. So the biggest change came with a fantastic duo being brought into the club, and no, we are not talking about Romelu Lukaku or Lautaro Martinez just yet. That'll be in a few minutes' time. The duo I'm talking about is Antonio Conte and CEO Giuseppe Marotta. These two are the ones who worked so fantastically well together to start the Juventus dominance rolling. Both of them were working together at Juventus hand in hand when it came to new signings and bringing in the kind of player that would fit perfectly into Antonio Conte's system. It's been a theme throughout his career that he's needed the exact players that he wants to be able to pull off the tactics on the pitch, and Marotta did exactly what Conte needed, and that obviously helped them to win 3 back-to-back titles all those years ago. They did create this Juventus monster, and now they have been sent to destroy it like some sort of terrible Hollywood film, but things haven't always been rosy between the two. In fact, last season, at the end of Antonio Conte's first campaign at Inter Milan, there were rumours that he was so unhappy with the board and the players that they wanted to sign that he was threatening to leave the club. This was apparently after their chase of Sandro Tonali. He looks like a very, very good young player for the future, and AC Milan have managed to snap him up. The Inter Milan board wanted him, Antonio Conte didn't. He didn't want players with potential. He didn't want young stars for the future. He wanted an instant team to bring him instant success on the field. Eventually, he got them, and despite the fact that a lot of people thought it was rather odd when he's been signing the older players such as likes of Ashley Young, there was Diego Godin and Alexander Kolarov as well, who haven't exactly worked out at the club, he did also get the big money ready-made signings to win titles. I'm talking mainly about Barella, Hakimi and Lukaku. All 3 cost a lot of money, are brilliant, and they slide it perfectly into this Inter Milan team in the way Antonio Conte sets up. Conte knows how he wants to play, and because of this he was able to get rid of a few bad eggs within the squad. The likes of Icardi and Nainggolan were out the door, and Perisic was gone too after a bit of a disagreement. In fact, Perisic has come back to the club and Conte's found out a way to fit him into the system, but he hasn't always been the perfect player for the system of Conte's. The reason being because he plays with wing-backs, and this is where we'll get into the tactical section. The likes of Politano and Perisic, who are wingers, and even Alexis Sanchez as well, have all struggled to adapt to the system because, well, they don't really play the right position. He has managed to make the most of it, but it hasn't exactly been an easy ride. So first off, let's move through the team and look how good they've been. And in goal, Samir Handanovic was always going to be a top goalkeeper. He was, regardless of the system or the manager, he's going to do his thing in between the sticks. His shot-stopping percentage this season has been ridiculous, but it's also his fantastic goalkeeping clean sheets been no doubt in part to the fact he's got 3 brilliant defenders ahead of him. Last season, like I mentioned, Diego Godin was brought in, and his understudy, Andrea Bastoni, has actually come through and proved himself to be a vital player in the first team after Godin left for Cagliari. He didn't quite fit in a back three, but Bastoni, alongside the likes of De Vrij and Milan Skriniar, have been absolutely fantastic in this build-up play that Antonio Conte has put into the team. They're comfortable on the ball, they know when to split and allow the wing-backs to push further up, and they play very progressive passes into the midfielders, who are brilliant on the ball as well. So talking about being able to play into the midfield, and this is where you've really seen Antonio Conte's side mature from what they were last season to this season. Last season, there was Marcelo Brozovic sitting in that defensive midfield role. He was the one defensive midfielder, and there were 4 players ahead of him, including the 2 wing-backs and then the 2 strikers. But this season has seen more of a double pivot, and it's rather interesting how it's come about. Christian Eriksen, in a much different role than he was used to playing at Tottenham as the number 10, has become almost a deep-line playmaker with his ability to spray passes all around the field and not necessarily get involved in the assisting or the scoring so much, despite the fact he's got a few this season. Him, alongside Brozovic, has freed up the likes of Barella, who is an incredibly dynamic player and who has popped up in so many spaces, whether it's linking with the midfield, linking with the attack, or playing the ball out wide to the likes of Hakimi on the right-hand side, especially. In fact, no team in Serie A has attacked more down the right and less down the left than Inter Milan. Barella's presence in the squad has also meant the likes of Arturo Vidal, there's Gagliardini as well, and Stefano Sensi have all had to play a little bit of a squad role because, well, those 3 midfielders have done so well. Eriksen hasn't always been in the squad. It's actually really only been the last few months that Antonio Conte has figured out how to use him and how to get the best out of him, and it's amazing, like I mentioned, that it's in a completely different role. After 1 year at the club, after joining from Spurs last January, it looked like he was on his way out, and Inter actually confirmed that he was on the transfer list. His turnaround has been sensational and has been a rather big part of Inter Milan's fantastic form in the second half of the season as they won the title. One of the main things about this Inter Milan team is they are so fantastic on the counter-attack, and it's due to the fact that they move the ball quickly. For anyone who's played football, you know that the ball travels a lot faster when you pass it than when you run with it. So there aren't too many dribblers within their side. The likes of Romelu Lukaku and Lautaro Martinez, when they drop deep, play the ball off quickly to the onrushing midfielders, and that spreads it wide to these wing-backs that just love to attack. When they get out wide, because they're wing-backs, they actually start very high. You'll notice that when Inter Milan play out from the back, 2 of the 3 centre-backs split into the wider positions, and it forces the wing-backs higher. This means they don't have to necessarily defend so deep, so they haven't got further to run when it comes to sprinting onto the counter-attack. Also, as wing-backs, they really do have that license to go all the way up to support the forwards, get in the box, and even go beyond them when one of them has dropped deep. The movement of Barella in behind Lukaku and Martinez is absolutely sensational. When one of them comes deep, the other one spins in behind, and they just have so many attacking options. The counter-attack suits them perfectly. It's quick, it's dynamic, it's aggressive, and all of the space in behind is used up completely. Like I mentioned, these 2 up front, they're just on another planet. Both of them bring something quite unique to this Inter Milan lineup, and they are so good at it. It's the speed at which they play which is the most impressive. The one touch, the dribbling, the awareness, the positional sense, the way they attack the spaces both with and without the ball are so key to how Inter Milan play, and it's no wonder that the likes of Romelu Lukaku has got such a ridiculous amount of goals, and it's no wonder that Barcelona were willing to pay so much money last summer for Lautaro Martinez. And it's also no wonder why Inter Milan are willing to hold on to him and charging his release clause, which apparently is set at around 110 million euros. Those 2 are an insanely good dynamic duo, and I'm struggling to think of many other duos as a front 2 that are that good in world football at the moment. I'm not talking about a striker and a winger, I'm talking about 2 centre forwards. The fact that the rules changing after the pandemic and allowing 5 substitutes in Serie A has also worked to Antonio Conte's advantage as well. Like I mentioned before, he's had quite a few players who didn't necessarily fit into all the positions that he needed, but the fact that he can give them game time, show them in training what position he wants them to play, and then put it to use in the game is such a key element of this Inter Milan team. I'm not saying they'd be absolute rubbish if they could only make 3, but being able to make 5 has certainly helped. So Antonio Conte has led his side to the Serie A title, and who knows, maybe in 1 year we'll be talking about their European dominance. Of course, their Champions League group stage didn't exactly go to plan this season, but maybe in 12 months' time we'll be talking about how they're also conquering Europe as well as Italian football. So that is how Antonio Conte has brought this Inter Milan team back to Italian success. You guys let me know your thoughts down below, how well they'll do next year in the Champions League as well. Check out everything else they've got going on in OneFootball. And until next time, I'll see you guys later.